Hey guys, what's up? Chemistry here. Today I'm going to show you the basics of making house music, and the reason for why I have held back from making this tutorial so much is because I'm not an expert of making house music at all, and I think that's really the biggest thing, just that insecurity, I guess. But I've gotten this requested so many times, there's no way I couldn't answer it, so this is the basics of house. Now I know house varies a lot from genre to genre, but I'm going to try to make it as generalized as possible. So the first thing we're going to go look into is the beat, like beat making. Now you're probably going to want some sample packs. I usually just use VEC3, which stands for Vengeance Essential Clubsounds, and it just gives you a sample pack. You just have a bunch of kicks and claps and snares and effects and synths and all this cool stuff. But the Vengeance Essential people actually made a dedicated sample pack for house music, and it's called Vengeance Essential House Volume 1. So yeah, it's a more of a specific sample pack just for that genre, so you guys can go look that up if you want. Maybe I'll leave a link in the description, but I'm going to start collecting some samples now. So yeah, I think I'm just going to take this one. I already have a good idea of what I'm going to choose. And I like that kick because it has a lot of low end, to be honest. So yeah. Now for an open hi-hat, I'm going to go for something softer. Usually the beat is more chill. You don't want to go for something too mega dancey. Just relatively soft open hi-hats. Then whatever close hi-hat you choose is fine. That's just your preference. All of this is really just preference, to be honest. I'm also going to take this clap here. You want to go for more of a human clap, if you guys know what I mean. Just something that sounds like it's man-made, if you know what I mean. Like, don't go for a clap that sounds like well, maybe that, but no, like that, it doesn't. Don't go for something that's like clubby. God, it feels like I'm losing my voice. Oh my god. Alright, here we go. Better make a tutorial. So what you want to do is make the beat, and of course the tempo ranges from 120 beats per minute to 135 beats per minute, maybe 140, but that's a pretty big range, so I'm just going to keep it at 125 beats per minute, and it'll be kind of in the middle, a general beats tempo. And also what you want to do is clone this clap here. I like this clap because it has, as you can see, it just kind of suppresses the decay. Just looks nice. It's almost like a tornado. But I'm going to clone that clap there, and I'm going to rename the channel to reverse clap, because we're going to make a reverse clap, and that is a very classic instrument for house. So just open up the channel settings, hit reverse, and then it'll just play the sample backwards, so it's a reverse clap. Now, time to fill in each 4 steps with the kick drum. Add some claps right here. I have 2, by the way, so they're both hitting at the same time. Then the open hi-hat will hit on the offbeat, and then the closed will always hit wherever the kick isn't. So just right here, so that's the kick, and it's just not hitting. Now we have to find a place for the reverse clap, right? So usually you can just place it around here-ish and see how it sounds. It depends on how long the actual sample of the clap is. You can also mess around with the in and out knobs. That will suppress certain areas from the beginning and outer area from the sample. So yeah, if you want to be really specific, you can just send that to the piano roll by right clicking, and then you'll see exactly what was on the step sequencer if you clicked on something. If not, then it'll just be empty. And on C5, that's exactly like the sample. If you go higher, it'll change the pitch a little bit, so you want to keep on C5. hit the magnet, hit none, and just find a specific spot where it sounds nice. And it doesn't matter the length, by the way, just, you know, as long as it's within, like, well, for this measure here. So this is like the maximum length. So yeah, I guess I'm happy with that. So yeah, we got our beat. What we want to do now is link those to the mixer, which is what you have to do whenever you mix any song. So yeah, we're gonna link all our channels to the mixer, and I'm gonna try not to go too much into the actual mixing process of this. It's a lot like trance, so if you guys know how I mix with trance music, then just do something similar. For the kick drum, I'm going to go into mastering and cut it at around the, what does it say, 40 hertz to 18K cut, and that will cut it there, so that I can open up another EQ and then just mess around the way, whatever way I want, knowing that the noise is cut off. Of course I could adjust that, but it's fine. So I want to give a little bit of bass boost and maybe cut out some of the air that comes in between the low and the low, mid, and bass section. So we want that kick to hit 0 decibels, which is up here. I'm going to turn down the master channel a little bit for mastering purposes, and I'm going to add a compressor, or you could just turn it up very, very loudly until it hits 0 decibels, but you could just add a compressor and hit drums on the presets, or complete mix, whatever you like. And that should compress it way up to 0 decibels. Alright, so now you just gotta make all the other instruments kind of follow that kick. Since it's pretty loud, we're gonna have to turn up the instruments a little bit here. I'm making this clap here my lead clap, and that one is kind of a background. And for the reverse crash, reverse clap, I'm going to cut off some of that low end. You should also do this with the claps. I'm just not going to do it for this tutorial, so we don't run on too much time. And I'm going to use the stereo shaper and make it invert left, so it kind of sounds like it's coming out of the back end of the headphones. You'll hear the difference much more if you're wearing headphones. You can also do something like that with closed hi-hats. You can also add some pan-o-matic. You can have this like LFO effect where it's just automatically switching from one ear to the other. So just turn on the pan, turn up the amount a little bit, and then the speed to whatever you like. The speed will just determine how fast it moves from left to right on your speakers. Alright, so now what we want to do is start thinking theoretically and melodically what we're going to do for our song, right? So plugin wise, what you probably want to choose is something like Massive. It's really good for electro and dubstep, but I do believe it can be fairly good for house music in general. Sound One would be alright. Almost any plugin can really support house music since it is a very popular genre, right? So Nexus 2 as well, very good for beginners. I don't have anything against people who want to learn how to mix and do like the important stuff first, and not worry so much on making an instrument, because I mean, who's gonna sound like totally original and pro like on the first song, right? So Nexus 2 does have a house expansion, I believe. As you can see, it says XB. These are my expansions, but I have, well, I don't have it, so I'm just going to use Dance Volume 2. I found this Insomnia sound that I kind of like. It's kind of like a pike. You know, you want to go for an instrument that sounds almost cool, you know, like just addictive. You can just listen to it over and over, and that's what we want. Alright, so we got that Insomnia, and we also have Massive. Yeah, it's just a simple saw. We're not going to screw around with it too much. You guys can look at that. We've got oscillator 1, and we can turn oscillator 2 and 3 on, but we're not. And we can change the shapes here to analog electric, digital hybrid. I'd keep it around analog electric first, and if you want to mix anything beyond that, go for it. So now we're working on the lead catchy melody. A lot of the times it seems like nowadays house is sounding more and more happy. Like when I say happy, I mean major. A lot of the times they have just like a C major harmony line that's 8 bars long, so it would just be all this section plus all this. And like that depends on your style. I think I'm gonna have a minor because I think it'd just be easier for this tutorial, and I think I already have a melody in mind, so I guess that's why I'm really doing it. So I'll get that cell. So that's just gonna be our bass, if you will, just to keep us steady. So F sharp is the first note, and it's gonna be an F sharp minor. So the minor third is that is A. And what we want to do is make it kind of trip. Now, of course, this is just my preference. Like, you know, I'm sure you guys listen to a lot more house, but I know that having trip, like, I call it trip notes. This thing here, these 3 notes, because they're triplets, and the first one hits on the on beat, second one hits like in between the on and the off, and this hits the off beat. And to keep us on beat, or steady with the beat, what we can do is have a clap sound, fill each 4 steps, hit the loop button here, and then while we make our melody, we can have the clap keeping us on beat so we don't go too off. I think what I'm going to do is have a pause right here, so no instrument, and I think that's good for a lot of different reasons, because you can add like small effects here, and people like pauses. So yeah, silence is good. Alright, so we'll copy paste that, and I'll just change the harmonics here. Actually no, I'll keep it on F sharp, so I'll stay on F sharp for a little longer. Now, start it off simple. Make sure measure 1 doesn't look too much like measure 2, so they're both different. And then measure 3 will look a lot like measure 1, and measure 4 will look a lot like measure 2, but it'll have its own unique kind of flavor, if you know what I mean. So our harmony bass line thing is F sharp twice for 2 measures. Basically that. So since we want to make it have its own flavor, since we're on the fourth measure, usually what you do is stutter it. Now you don't have to, but changing the note length is usually a good idea to add that kind of flavor. So this is our little stutter here, very short notes, kind of like a staccato. I think we're gonna move this a little bit higher. We're gonna transpose this from F sharp to F sharp minor to A minor, and I like A minor because it has no black notes, just like C sharp or C major has no black notes, so we don't have to worry about black notes anymore. So yeah, we're just going to remove that, I think, now, and we're going to copy and paste that into our Insomnia synth thing that we got from Nexus, and both of those together will sound something like this. Now you can mix those two together and put that in the mixer or whatever and do what you want with it. Now this is just an example. I know it might not be the best, but what you want to go for it melody wise is something catchy. You want something that you can just repeat over and over and over and over and it just will not get tired. You want the harmonics to be diverse, and you want the melody itself, even though it's replaying over and over, to have some sort of difference, like have some sort of, like if you can make the overall pattern like very, very long and have a lot of changes happen through time, then the crowd will be more interested, you know what I mean? So maybe the first two measures are really simple, but if we kept on making it more and more complicated as time went by, then we'd get probably more respect and more likes on the song, eh? So for these two last measures, I can't actually hear myself, got both headphones, and for two last measures, we're going to so that's 7 and 8. We're going to change that up to so yeah, that could be the ending, and then we have to copy paste that to the Insomnia. And what you could also do is change the harmonics a little bit there as well, you know, to keep people interested. So that's an 8-bar melody. And yeah, so that's decent. Now let's work a bit on the bass line before we go into song structure. So for bass instruments, usually you would have a sub bass, which is usually just a sine. It's not very loud and no one really listens to it. And then you just have like the bass, you know, instrument, the main bass or the lead bass, and then you would probably have something called just the mid bass, and the mid bass is something you probably hear the most, but the oomph comes from the sub bass and the just the lead bass. So from Nexus you can find some pretty decent electro stuff. But also for Massive, you can probably find some better, like, variation of, you know, basses. I mean, Massive has a load of presets if you're not even interested in making your own sounds. Like, Massive has plenty of stuff that you can probably work with. But anyway, So for the lead bass, or not the lead but the mid, sounds something like that. I'm gonna take the reverb off of that. There we go. So that's starting for on A now for 2 measures. C, and then let me see if that's right. Yeah, okay, that looks right. So that would be our mid bass, and then you probably want to link that to the mixer with the kick playing on the background so that you can get the kick and the basses working well together, because that is very important. So for the bass, I'm going to cut off some of the actual bass because this is like a mid bass. And I'm going to see if I can make something for the lower bass. And you want something that will sustain as well, because we want long notes. Because what we're going to do with these basses is we're going to sidechain them. So let's see if we can do that. Anyway, you can just mess around with that. I'm just having a little bit of fun now. So yeah, you want to link those basses to the mixer. I'm just going to name this low, and we'll know what that is, just low bass. And what we want to do, well, you'll have to EQ that low bass, but you want to sidechain the basses to the kick. So what you want to do is hit the kick here, and then look underneath where we mixed in those basses, and you want to hit the up arrow on each one, since we're sidechaining both of those basses. And then knobs will come up. You just want to turn those down. Now when you go back to those basses, the knobs will disappear, but they're now sent through the kick. Now you can open up the limiter on each bass thing, since we're sidechaining 2 basses. And we want to open up comp, sidechain to 1. So we'll do that on the other one. Comp, sidechain to 1. And then you want to turn down the threshold and turn up the ratio to the right, and also the knee. You're going to have to mess around with these 3 knobs here, maybe sometimes the ahead as well. But I have some presets here that look a lot like this that I made. This is a preset that I just made, basic electro sidechain, for this tutorial. So it looks something like this. So they're both the same, and that's what's good about having your own presets. Now they both look the same, and they'll sidechain the exact same way. So now whenever the kick is hitting, the basses will duck and come back in. See how the kick wasn't hitting and it stopped? Now you're going to have to mix that in, and I apologize in advance for that lag. I'll probably leave an FLP for this tutorial, so you guys can look at this stuff, but you will need Nexus and Massive for this to work. So yeah, sorry for using plugins. Alright, now time for song structure. We got all our patterns set. Now on pattern 1 we have our beat. What we want to do with that is right click on that, and then oh shit, you can't see it. Alright, pattern 1, right click, split by channel. Now you have the bass drum and everything all split in their own individual patterns, all in the right order that it was set on the step sequencer. So everything looks the same on the playlist in the same order as the step sequencer. So the reverse claps at the bottom, and so it is here. Pattern 7 is our melody, and pattern 8, I'll take off the kick, is our basses. So we could rename that, but since we're running on a bit of time, I'm just not going to bother. We're also going to go look for some, some effects. Now, I'm not really going to go for too many effects. I might not even go for any, but we're going to need crashes, and we're going to need a reverse crash as well. So it's very similar to trance. In a way, like the effects usually consist of sweeps and things like that, a lot like in trance. So I guess if anyone is familiar with trance producing, house will be a bit easier for you guys. So I'm going to move that a little bit over. You will have to mix in those crashes. I'm just not going to mix them in right now. Alright, so the song will start typically on the just the beat, nothing else. So here are our kicks and the block patterns here. After 4 measures, we'll introduce the first clap. Now it's time for a transition right here. So on that last measure, so every 8 measures, we're going to have a transition. You could have a transition every 16 measures, but we want this to be relatively fast-paced. So I'm going to go into the drum pattern, and this is it right here. I'm going to take it off here, and I'm going to use it in the playlist. And I'm doing this because you can shorten it up, and I just want the kick to hit 3 times, not 4. So I'm going to shorten it, and I'm going to keep the clap at the same spot. I'm not going to do anything with that, and I'm going to have the reverse clap come in then on that last measure, which is the 8th measure. So we have this like section here, and then we're going to the next section, and we need 4 of those sections to make a full episode of a song, which is the intro right now, if you will. So it'll sound something like this. So on the next section we want to add those claps, by the way. So now there's more claps, and the verse clap is in too. Now we need an even stronger transition, because now that we're on the 16th measure, we're halfway through the intro. The intro will be 32 measures long, and we need to introduce the open hi-hats, which is also a big part of the song. So that's why we're going to try to make this transition a little bigger, or more like obvious that we're transitioning. So I'm gonna get all these new patterns in, which actually just one. So this here is the open hi-hat, what's in red. And what we're going to do to make this transition bigger is I'm going to move this reverse crash. I'm going to move that back by 1/4 of a measure. So now it looks like this. There's a little bit of space in between the reverse crash and the crash by 1/4 of a measure. And what that will do is give it a bit of it's almost like it's holding its breath for the actual crash. And we're going to do exactly the same thing, but we're going to take off the background clap, the second one, and we're going to modify the lead clap, and we're going to make it so it only hits once, and that is like right on the last where it's holding its breath, kind of like on that last quarter measure. And you don't even have to have the reverse claps, but if you want them there, then sure. Alright, so this is the new transition, or the second one. Of course you can add some basses here, like that's fine, but yeah, that's up to you guys. Now add in the closed. Now we're going to need a crash here just so people are still steady on where we are in the song. Copy paste that over. Actually no, we don't want to copy paste that. We just have to add one more measure, which is, or section here, which is 4 measures long. I'm kind of confused on where we are, but we want it to end on that 32, bar 32. So take out some of these and see what we can do. We want that. Here's reverse crash, clap, reverse clap. And we want the exact same transition from transition on the 16th measure. So if you guys are confused here, this is all just song structure. We have a section here that's in gray. So we want 8 of those, but we have even bigger sections that are gray and then darker gray, and that is 8 bars long. And at the end of each 8 bar, we want some sort of transition, especially if there's a song coming in, or not a song, a new pattern coming in. And then we have another section here, which just includes another clap, and then has the bigger transition. Now the bigger transition is halfway through is bar 16, which is halfway through the intro, which is already predetermined to be 32 measures long. So we have a half section here, and then the second half is more like there's just more going on. So this is the second half, and it ends on bar 32. Now 32 divided by 2 equals 16. So that's kind of how I get that. So yeah, that's how I understand these things, I guess. It's a little bit of math. So yeah, now after the intro, we're gonna have a break, which is this area after the 32, bar 32. The intro can be 64 bars, but it's whatever you like. So bar 33 is gonna be the beginning of our break and hook area, which is when the song's really gonna actually start. So we're gonna start off with that melody. How cheesy that melody is. We have way too much of an awesome transition for a weak melody like that, but what you can do, I'm gonna have to just live with it. What we can do is have the bass. See these basses here I just added? We're gonna fade them in here. So create automation clip on the faders on the mixer, since we did link it, and it'll come up with these volume envelopes. And what you can do is just add a block or a dot, whatever you like to call it, right here, and make it so that it just fades in that way. This is just volume, right? So it's just volume in translation through these envelopes, and when it's at the very bottom of the envelope, it like, look, it's that low, and then as it gradually goes higher, so does the faders. You can kind of see here. And there's going to be lag, by the way. Just prepare yourself. Transition, of course. It's been 16 measures, so of course we would need another nice transition. So we can just copy paste this stuff here, and then that would be kind of like a build even, and then we just have more instruments come in. But I'm sure you guys can come up with your own good melodies and things, well, at least I hope. I'll leave an FLP for you guys. I'm pretty sure I hit 300 subscribers, 500 subscribers. So this is going to be kind of a reward for all the love I've been getting. So let's see my tutorials. I have a few FLPs that I have to give to you guys. So this will be basics of house. I made a few tutorials already. Okay, a few. I made like 5 house tutorials and I hate them all, so I think this is the only really good one. Sorry I dragged on for this long, but like I said, 500 subs, so that's pretty good. Thank you all for watching. Like, I really appreciate that, and I'm getting a lot of really good comments and PMs, so you know, I really appreciate that. And I don't want to be like a lot of the YouTubers that just go on and on just thanking everybody, and I know it's only 500 people, but I mean, that's like, it's like my Facebook friend list almost. I have a few more, but anyway. Even though I don't even like know half of them. So I think I'm gonna come out with a Facebook page, by the way, guys. So if you guys want to go like that, I'll probably leave an annotation whenever it's up. I also have a Bandcamp for my original tracks and remixes. I think I'll probably have my remixes, I'm not sure. So yeah, I'll have this FLP in the description too, so you guys can get this stuff on your own. Just replace whatever samples with whatever samples you have, because I know I'm using VC3, I'm using Nexus and Massive, so you're going to need those plugins to make it sound just like what I have, but you will have the basics of all this and you can refer off of. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and see you next time.